Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to Monday's lesson. Alright, we're almost finished vegetation. We've got the details on the screen here for you. Okay, we're looking at hot and cold deserts today, the vegetation in both of those. We're also going to talk a bit about how the vegetation has adapted to the conditions. Obviously, we know hot deserts are very hot. They're also very cold at night. They also suffer from very little rainfall. Cold deserts are pretty much the same, except they're cold all the time, and again, very little rainfall. Alright, so you can pause the screen there and head up, okay? And what we're going to do is we're just going to start with a couple of key words, okay? These words will pop up in the textbook and the worksheet we're going to look at, okay? We should know by now what a drought is. We've looked at that key word before. Okay, nocturnal refers to animals which are only active at night. We're mainly dealing with vegetation in this topic, alright? But just in case people don't know that word, nocturnal. Then perennial and permafrost, right? Perennials, they're plants which live longer than 2 years. So what they will do is they'll grow, they'll flower, they'll go back asleep, and then they'll wait some time until the conditions are right, come back, flower, die away, and so on, okay? So they don't just last 1 year like a lot of plants. Finally, we have our permafrost. Okay, this is ground which remains frozen for an extended or long period of time, or the majority of a year. So again, in our cold deserts, the permafrost, the soil layer, okay, is actually frozen solid. Alright, so you can't even dig in it, so it stops a lot of plants growing. Okay, so there are your keywords. Make a note of those under where you've headed up. Now, we're just going to turn our attention to page 128, 129 of our social studies. All right, we're going to look at the tundra. This is our cold desert, essentially. All right, so I'm just going to put cold desert beside that in the textbook. Okay, so get your textbooks out, and I will see you there in a moment. Okie doke. So I'm on page 128 of Social Studies Book 2. Alright, it's tundra. I've written in cold desert, alright, so the word tundra actually comes from Finland. That's a country in Europe, alright, and it means barren. Now I just put a little number 1 beside that. Barren means nothing can grow, okay, so if you've got a barren landscape, there's very little there, very little life, animal or plant, okay. Vegetation in the tundra is the hardiest in the world, so actually because the conditions are so tough, so cold, ground is so hard, there's so few nutrients in the soil, alright? It's very hard for plants to grow. Now I've highlighted bullet point 1, 2 and 5, okay? The types of plant life that does survive. Lichens, okay? We got mosses and we got low shrubs. Okay, now I'll show you some pictures of these in a couple of minutes, alright? But there's a low level of vegetation. Quite often the tundra will look like this, okay? Low level little shrubs, and again, some small little kind of moss, these mosses here, okay, in between rocks. So not a huge amount of life. Alright, back to page 128, just down the bottom. All of these plants, like many mountain plants, are perennials, okay? They flower once a year, then they die back for up to 10 months before appearing again. So the growing season in the tundra is very, very short. Alright, so the plants bloom, they flower, they send out their seeds, they pollinate, whatever it is, and then they go asleep again. Alright, so it's a short window opportunity. Despite the conditions, there is nutrition in the plants, alright, and several types of animals have also learned to survive there. So in the midst of winter, there'll be very, very little life, but during the summertime, there is actually plants and animals that you will find there. Alright, so that's what we're going to do about tundra. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint now. Okay, so highlight up those little bits and pieces, and we'll go back to look at some examples. Okay, so we're just back on our PowerPoint. Alright, so let me just show you some of the pictures of our lichens, whichever way you say it. Okay, so lichen is like this. It's a fungusy type plant. It grows mainly on trees or rocks, okay, along the ground, and it's this kind of fungus type appearance to it, okay? If you pick it up and rub it in your fingers like that, it just falls apart very easily. Then we got our mosses, okay? These grow, they cover the ground and they're very spongy. Alright, so if you fall on them, it's almost like falling on a nice spongy blanket. Now, we're going to turn our attention to hot deserts, okay? We're going to read through 2 sides of a worksheet about hot deserts and the vegetation found there, alright? There's also going to be an assignment with this, okay? I will send the worksheets to you. I'm going to go through them in the video, then I will attach them in the assignment with clear instructions, alright? But you should need to just know exactly what you're doing. So, let's open up these worksheets. So the first worksheet is this one. How do plants and wildlife survive in tropical deserts? Okay, so I'm going to fly through this pretty quick. Okay, the biggest problem in the desert is the shortage of water, obviously. Plants and animals have to find ways of looking for storing water. This means they've had to adapt to living in drought. Now we've defined drought already. Only especially adapted plants can survive. They've grown, so they've done lots of things. The plants have done lots of things to try and survive. Some are named here dormant. They only come out during the night because during the day there's too much evaporation. They'd lose all of their water. Okay. Some of them grow very far away from each other. Think of our social distancing right now. So they have their own space and they can get their own nutrients. All right. Now, part of your assignment will stem from the bottom side of this sheet. Okay, you've got 2. You've got the saguaro cactus and the prickly pear cactus. Okay, diagrams are very clear for you there. It shows the roots underground. Okay, it talks about the types of waxy skin. All right, the types of flowers. It talks about the seeds. All right, lots of things. How much water it can store and so on. Okay, so it also tells you how long it takes to mature. Okay. So apologies, got a bit interrupted there. So what I was saying is a lot of information on this diagram, okay, and you need to pay close attention to it. The second sheet, less so. Alright, you got some diagrams again. Here's our saguaro cactus and our prickly pear cactus in real life. There's a little passage here about camels and about how animals have adapted. Now we're not going to look at that because we're just focusing on vegetation. So what I want you to do is come right down. We're going to do 1A and 1B. Okay, that's all. So I want you to draw a diagram of either a prickly pear cactus or a saguaro cactus and put the following labels on the diagrams. So draw one or the other, okay? They are the ones on the previous page. So you're going to choose this one or this one. Do a nice big sketch under where you've headed up or on the back of the page behind where you've done the keywords, whichever. And you're going to label it with these 4 things. Then you're going to explain how each of the 4 labels listed here, this one, this one, this one, and this one, how they help the cactus to search for and store water. So tell me how each of these things helps it to survive by searching for water, collecting water, and storing it. Okay, that's all your assignment is. Do it nice and big on your folder sheet and submit it. Okay, that's all we're doing for deserts.